What happens when the WNBA's brightest star, Caitlin Clark, finally calls out the referees? Absolute chaos. She's broken her silence on the relentless targeting she's faced every game. While fans watched Clark get hammered with no calls in her favor, she was quietly preparing her response. Now her statement is out and league officials are scrambling. Clark didn't just speak up, she exposed the WNBA's officiating system entirely, drawing comparisons to NBA superstar Steph Curry to highlight the shocking double standards. The parallels are crystal clear, and what she revealed next will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about professional basketball. Why do you think referees have it out for Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Can't help it. She can't help but blast the referees, and she has every right to. We have watched Caitlin Clark get absolutely brutalized. Since she stepped foot into the WNBA, she's been targeted. She's the most flagrantly fouled player in the league.
Deja Carrington went for the ball and ended up striking Clark right in the eye. Clark stumbled, dazed, visibly shaken by the blow. The referees saw it all, but didn't blow the whistle. Months later, JCS Sheldon delivered another eye poke to Clark. For the league's biggest star, this started to feel like the standard treatment on the court.
Take another look as we try to figure out what exactly went down. So you see her get hit in the face. JC Sheldon doesn't like that, and everybody on the team doesn't like it. Marina, trying to have her teammates back, pushes her down. You see a little bit of drama all the way around. Tina, Charles, Clark, and Mabry, they received technical fouls. Sheldon received a flagrant 1 foul.
Lissa Thomas delivered a savage shoulder check that sent Clark tumbling to the floor. Any other player would have drawn a flagrant foul, but Clark. Just a minor, barely noticeable common foul, and this isn't a one-off. Jackie Young made contact with Clark's face, forcing her to stumble backward, and again, only a common foul was called. Even in games against Seattle, Skylar Diggins-Smith shoved Clark from behind near the bench. No whistle, nothing.
Okay, by now I'm sure you've seen Skylar Diggins assault Caitlin Clark after Indiana blew out Seattle.
Meanwhile, Clark was hit with a technical foul simply for slapping the basketball after missing a shot. The contrast couldn't be clearer. This system is broken. Hits to her shooting arm became routine. Opponents targeted her shoulder, elbow, and wrist. Every game brought new instances of contact that would have been flagged immediately in college basketball or the NBA, but in the WNBA, these were treated as ordinary plays. This created a culture where defenders knew they could punish Clark physically with zero consequences. Face guarding crossed the line into outright illegal contact. Players yanked her jersey, held her arms, and committed fouls away from the ball. These off-ball attacks multiplied every game. Referees had a clear view of each incident and chose to ignore them. The pattern was unmistakable, a deliberate decision to allow targeted aggression against the league's most marketable star.
Happening to us the last few games, a minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
Stephanie White laid out the numbers that exposed the league's corruption. She highlighted a shocking minus 31 free throw discrepancy during playoff games and called it nothing short of egregious. The stats tell the story. Officials consistently failed to protect players attacking the basket. Lexi Hull took an elbow to the face from Caleb McBride, and the foul was bizarrely called on Hull. Aaliyah Boston absorbed contact in the paint that would trigger flagrant reviews in any properly officiated league. White didn't hold back, saying, "There's clearly a double standard in how calls are made." This hostile officiating didn't just target Clark, it affected her entire supporting cast, making every drive to the basket a potential nightmare.
It's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
Even WNBA commentator Rebecca Lobo noticed the trend on live broadcasts, joking that the number of missed calls on Clark was like Oprah handing out cars. When league insiders openly question officiating integrity, the problem becomes impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark's brother, Colin Clark, directly pointed to the referees for their failure to control the game, failures that contributed to his sister's quad strain. This wasn't random, the aggression was systematic. Referees had repeated chances to enforce the rules and protect players, but instead, they repeatedly allowed dangerous plays to continue. Clark's decision to reference Steph Curry in her comments was a calculated move, a response to months of targeted physicality enabled by a corrupt officiating system that put her career on the line.
Caitlin Clark get guarded 94 feet full court in an all-star game. All the nonsense, Kennedy Carter and all this stuff that was going on, targeted. If anybody deserves to take shots at the referees on all levels, it's Caitlin Clark. Kathy Engelbert, you did a terrible job of fixing the problem. You know, you definitely did a terrible job with.
Steph Curry has faced the same type of treatment in the NBA. Clark didn't randomly defend him online. She leveraged his superstar status to expose the WNBA's officiating without directly confronting the league. When she said, "We want to see Steph making 12 threes a game. Stop grabbing him, please." It looked harmless at first glance, a fan cheering on a favorite player. But it was anything but casual. Clark had studied how Curry is grabbed, held, and fouled off the ball while NBA referees largely turn a blind eye. She recognized the same tactics being used against her in the WNBA. What seemed like a simple comment was actually a masterclass in calculated criticism, drawing a sharp strategic parallel between the two leagues.
Caitlin Clark did not mince words about Golden State Warriors star Steph Curry. Clark has acknowledged Curry's impact on her game, citing him as a player who she has admired. They the only ones shooting from the parking lot. They shooting from the parking lot out there somewhere, okay? I grew up watching Steph play, said Caitlin Clark. She said, after a game against the Golden State Valkyries last season, he's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. What he's been able to do in his career, he's changed basketball. It's cool to be here. He's somebody I idolize.
Curry has openly talked about the challenges of facing intense physical defense. He admitted that part of him resists it because it's not real basketball, but another part sees it as a compliment, proof that opponents respect and fear his game. He said, "I've seen it all, so I know how they want to guard me, how I can stay effective, not let it take me out of the game, and even use it to our advantage as a team."
Like Curry, Clark's presence alone forces defenses to adjust well before she crosses half court. Those similarities resurfaced on Sunday after Curry made headlines for the way the Charlotte Hornets defended him, frequently grabbing, holding, and face guarding him far from the ball. That sounds exactly like Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Grabbing, holding, being face guarded, most flagrantly fouled, being targeted, all of this stuff.
Watching this, Clark saw her own experience mirrored through the NBA's biggest star. Her phrase, "let them cook," became a subtle call for fair officiating, demanding that both she and Curry be allowed to play freely without excessive physical interference. The message was clear: stop letting defenders grab, hold, and foul star shooters who are redefining basketball with their range. Clark cleverly used Curry's NBA credibility as a shield. Directly criticizing WNBA referees could have invited league discipline, but by framing her message as support for Curry, she delivered a scathing indictment of corrupt officiating while staying protected.
She gets it way worse than Steph Curry get it, though. Let's be clear. She get treated like she on a prison yard. She get treated like fresh meat on the prison yard. That's what Caitlin Clark gets treated like in the WNBA, all while making all these ladies all this money and getting them popular and got people watching them that wasn't watching them before.
AJ Wilson stepped to the free throw line 10 times in Game 5 of the 2025 WNBA semifinals against the Fever. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston only got 2 attempts. Wilson shot 6 for 20 and struggled defensively throughout the game, while Boston battled under the rim and dominated the paint. That free throw gap tells the story of how these referees operate, depending entirely on who's wearing which jersey. In Game 3, Wilson set an illegal screen by extending her leg, but the foul was bizarrely called on Lexi Hull. Boston absorbed a clear foul from Nalissa Smith with no whistle. Same game, same officials. Completely different standards. Wilson later received another questionable call that Coach White openly criticized. The Aces pulled ahead while Boston racked up fouls simply for playing aggressive legal defense.
Throughout her WNBA career, she has routinely faced aggressive coverage, constant ball pressure, and extended defensive attention designed to limit her shooting opportunities. Still, like Clary, Clark has continued to adopt impacting games through playmaking, off-ball movement, and drawing defensive attention that opens space for teammates.
Kelsey Mitchell endured relentless physical play all night in Game 5, yet the referees blew no whistles. The punishment was so severe she eventually cramped up and needed medical attention. Meanwhile, Wilson continued to receive protection from the very same officials who ignored clear fouls on Mitchell. This isn't just about Clark. Every Fever player who threatens Las Vegas seems to face the same treatment. The structure of the officiating system looks built to favor certain teams and players. Wilson enjoys superstar treatment that Clark, the league's biggest draw, is consistently denied. The corruption is no longer subtle. These referees clearly know how to call a fair game. They prove it when protecting Wilson, but they consciously withhold that same fairness from Clark and the Indiana Fee. Clark drew a perfect parallel between herself and Curry, two game-changing shooters who force defenses to adapt before even crossing half court. Both endure the same treatment. Opponents grab, hold, and physically punish them while referees turn a blind eye. The tactic is the same across leagues. Target the star shooter and hope officials let it slide.
A'ja Wilson could get away with this. Look at this. And ESPN called this a highlight. You could clearly see both feet come off the ground and land again. That's illegal. And let's check this out, a double dribble. She spins, touches it with two hands. Like, this is first grade stuff. The refs, of course they miss it because it's A'ja Wilson. She's dribbling, touches it with two hands on the spin move, gathers it, and passes to a teammate. And watch this at travel. That's her pivot foot. Like, this is some Angel Reese type stuff. Like, 3 in 1 game? That's horrible.
Clark's timing was flawless. She responded to a viral TikTok where Steph Curry discussed the relentless physical defense he faced in a game against Charlotte. Even though the Warriors won 136 to 116, Curry scored just 14 points, constantly grabbed by defenders with no repercussions. Watching this, Clark saw her own experience mirrored through the NBA's biggest star. Her phrase, "let them cook," became a subtle call for fair officiating, demanding that both she and Curry be allowed to play freely without excessive physical interference. The message was clear: stop letting defenders grab, hold, and foul star shooters who are redefining basketball with their range. Clark cleverly used Curry's NBA credibility as a shield. Directly criticizing WNBA referees could have invited league discipline, but by framing her message as support for Curry, she delivered a scathing indictment of corrupt officiating while staying protected.
But you see in the fourth quarter, A'ja Wilson's trying out for an offensive lineman position in the NFL. And then look at, if you don't want to be pissed off, don't watch this. In overtime, a moving screen with 2 minutes left, and this is the biggest shot of the game after fouling out Boston for less.
The strategy worked because both players revolutionized the game with their deep shooting prowess. The way defenders target them exposes how officials in both leagues allow physical play against athletes who push the limits of basketball. Clark highlighted this pattern using the most visible example possible. Her comment wasn't casual. It was a calculated strike at a system that enables corruption. By leveraging Curry's massive platform, she amplified the same officiating issues she experiences firsthand in the WNBA. Now the league is under public scrutiny, forced to confront the uneven treatment of star players, scrambling to respond to the comparison Clark intentionally set in the spotlight.
We got a 4-point game in the middle of the third, and this is an offensive foul, right? That's what the refs say. This is how fair the WNBA is, but this is not a moving screen. That was way worse. And not only that, it led to 3 points and called this a foul on the Fever. This is the worst moving screen I've ever seen. And this in the fourth quarter in a 4-point game. Oh, it gets worse. In overtime, a moving screen right in front of everybody. And then guess what it leads to? A 3-pointer in a 2-point game with 2 minutes left. Another moving screen. Instead of calling this a moving screen on A'ja Wilson, they call a foul on the Fever. I can't make this crap up.
A'ja Wilson stepped to the free throw line 10 times in Game 5 of the 2025 WNBA semifinals against the Fever. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston only got 2 attempts. Wilson shot 6 for 20 and struggled defensively throughout the game, while Boston battled under the rim and dominated the paint. That free throw gap tells the story of how these referees operate, depending entirely on who who's wearing which jersey. In Game 3, Wilson set an illegal screen by extending her leg, but the foul was bizarrely called on Lexi Hall. Boston absorbed a clear foul from Nalissa Smith with no whistle. Same game, same officials, completely different standards. Wilson later received another questionable call that Coach White openly criticized. The Aces pulled ahead while Boston racked up fouls simply for playing aggressive legal defense.
Look at these moving screens. She totally destroys Lexi Hall, and guess what? They get a 3-point bucket off that play. They didn't call that an offense foul. Look at this one. Do you see how she sticks her leg out? They wonder why they get wide open layups and 3-pointers. Look at the room it makes when you set an illegal screen. That's why it's illegal. Another one, look at this. She moves over, and it's just enough time for her teammate to get a 3-pointer off. Watch how she does this. She thrusts her hips at the end. Look at it. Thrust her hips to get that extra space, and she gets an open layup. Like I said, 4 offensive fouls they didn't call, and they got 10 points.
Boston's 6th foul in Game 5 laid the league's bias bare. She was fighting for a clean rebound against Jackie Young, yet the referees slapped her with a 6th foul anyway. Meanwhile, Wilson kept getting whistle after whistle, despite struggling offensively. She racked up 10 free throw attempts, while Boston, repeatedly hammered in the paint, only made it to the line twice. The numbers don't lie. It points to deliberate favoritism. Coach Stephanie White didn't hold back, calling Boston the worst officiated post player in the league. She rarely gets the calls she deserves, even while absorbing constant contact. Wilson, on the other hand, benefits from star protection that Clark and her teammates never see. The same referees who let Clark get targeted suddenly see everything when Wilson drives to the basket. It's proof they can officiate fairly, but only when they choose to.
Caitlin is allowed to be grabbed and held and all those things. Even to the point where I remember there was a broadcast where Rebecca Lobo pointed out, like, there's a foul, and there's a foul, and there's a foul, like Oprah giving away calls.
By halftime in Game 3, Wilson had made just 1 of 1 from the field. She finished the game 6 for 20, scoring only 13 points. Yet the Aces still pulled out the win, largely thanks to favorable officiating. Despite her offensive struggles, Wilson kept getting calls in her favor, while Boston dominated the floor and was penalized for it. The contrast highlights how officials protect certain players, regardless of actual performance. During the game, the Fever challenged a foul on Boston, but the referees reportedly refused to review it. Moments later, Chelsea Gray hit a momentum-shifting 3-pointer, wiping out Indiana's hard-earned lead and swinging the game toward Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Wilson continued to benefit from calls that Indiana's players never received, even on obvious fouls.
You know, if you are promoting the WNBA, you want Caitlin Clark to go off, right? Like, you want Caitlin Clark to shine and star and all those things. So you would want to alleviate some of the extra stuff, the egregious stuff, as Steph pointed out.
Kelsey Mitchell endured relentless physical play all night in Game 5, yet the referees blew no whistles. The punishment was so severe she eventually cramped up and needed medical attention. Meanwhile, Wilson continued to receive protection from the very same officials who ignored clear fouls on Mitchell. This isn't just about Clark. Every Fever player who threatens Las Vegas seems to face the same treatment. The structure of the officiating system looks built to favor certain teams and players. Wilson enjoys superstar treatment that Clark, the league's biggest draw, is consistently denied. The corruption is no longer subtle. These referees clearly know how to call a fair game. They prove it when protecting Wilson, but they consciously withhold that same fairness from Clark and the Indiana Fever.
She is the driving force behind the leverage. So how she feels about the situation, her voice should matter a lot. Let's just put it that way.
Clark's comment about Curry wasn't just cheering on an NBA star. It was a direct strike at a corrupt system that's been targeting her for 2 seasons. With the 2026 season approaching, Clark holds all the leverage, leaving league officials scrambling to contain the fallout. Every missed call next season will be under an intense spotlight she created. The WNBA now faces a stark choice: protect their biggest star or cling to a broken officiating system. The numbers make the stakes impossible to ignore. more. Games featuring the Indiana Fever averaged over 1.8 million viewers when Clark played. After her injury, that figure plunged to 847,000, a staggering 53% drop that sent shockwaves through league offices. Even NBA Commissioner Adam Silver expressed concern about ensuring Clark is treated fairly, knowing full well the business impact. Clark's absence silenced the league's top revenue engine, and everyone noticed. Fans began seeing the patterns she highlighted. Social media dissected every questionable call against the Fever. On live broadcasts, Rebecca Lobo called out repeated missed fouls, saying, "There's a grab, there's a hold, another grab. That's a foul, that's a foul." When Hall of Fame broadcasters publicly question officiating integrity, the corruption becomes impossible to ignore. Now, informed fans demand the accountability that never existed before Clark spoke up. Coach Stephanie White called for a full investigation into WNBA officiating, labeling the situation egregious and disrespectful. She highlighted the staggering -31 free throw discrepancy and said bluntly, "I think Aaliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league. She never gets a call." White's public critique resonated with fans who had already seen the same patterns Clark exposed through her Curry comments. The coaching staff now has both ammunition and public support. As Clark returns for the 2026 season, she brings unprecedented media attention and backing. Every game will now test whether officials have learned their lesson or doubled down on the corruption. The league knows it can't risk another injury from uncalled fouls. They can't afford another collapse in viewership during critical CBA negotiations. Clark's decision to break her silence has created a level of accountability the WNBA has never faced before. Lexi Hall put up 16 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, and dished out 4 assists. Despite playing through injury, Kelsey Mitchell stepped up, taking over ball handling duties when the roster was stretched thin. Aaliyah Boston controlled the paint, battling not just opponents but questionable foul calls. The Fever's resilience amid this injury crisis proved they can compete when the playing field is fair. They forged chemistry through adversity, a strength that will pay off moving forward. Now, the corrupt officiating system faces its biggest challenge yet. Fans are scrutinizing every whistle, media outlets are analyzing every missed call, and star players are no longer staying silent about systematic targeting. Clark's comment referencing Curry opened the floodgates, giving voice to months of pent-up criticism. The league created this monster by allowing repeated physical abuse against their most marketable player. The 2026 season will be the true test. Will the WNBA protect its golden goose, or will it risk everything it has built? Clark holds all the leverage, and officials know the entire basketball world is watching every decision. Clark's moment of breaking her silence marks the start of a showdown between the league's top star and a deeply flawed officiating system. Her absence during All-Star Weekend made one thing crystal clear: the WNBA can't thrive without her. Viewership plummeted, ticket sales fell, sponsorship influence evaporated. Now, Clark is back for the 2026 season with public support, a stronger Fever roster, and undeniable evidence against biased referees. Through her Curry comments, she exposed the system, and fans are paying attention. Every missed call is being scrutinized, and media coverage is amplifying the pressure. The league faces its toughest decision yet: protect their most valuable player and revenue engine, or cling to a corrupt officiating structure. Why do you think referees are deliberately targeting Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an update. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.